Welcome, friend. For thousands of years, Buddhist masters have understood something deeply important about fear. They discovered that much of what troubles us does not come from the world itself, but from the way the mind learns to see the world. They saw that fear is often not born with us, but slowly taught. It is shaped by stories we hear, warnings we receive, and experiences we do not fully understand. And yet these same masters also discovered something else. They found a path to a kind of peace that does not disappear when circumstances change. A peace that remains steady even when life feels uncertain. Tonight you are invited to rest in that understanding. Before we begin, take a moment to notice where you are. Perhaps you are listening late at night when the world has finally grown quiet. Perhaps you are alone, or perhaps others are sleeping nearby. Wherever you are, whatever time it is for you, this moment is enough. Here on The Long Night, we create a gentle space for long listening. Not to force the mind into silence, but to allow it to soften naturally. Not to escape from life, but to rest within it. Tonight we will journey through ancient stories and timeless teachings about letting go of fear. Not through effort, not through struggle, but through understanding. These are not complicated philosophies. They are simple truths that have helped countless people find rest, clarity, and peace. Truths that work best when they are not analyzed, but quietly received. In Buddhist temples around the world, there is a familiar image you may have seen. A statue of the Buddha, standing or seated in stillness. One hand raised, palm facing outward. This gesture is called the Abhaya Mudra, the sign of fearlessness. It is an ancient message offered to all who enter. A silent reassurance that says, "Do not be afraid." Tonight that message is offered to you. You do not need to remember every story. You do not need to understand every teaching perfectly. There is nothing you need to achieve or figure out. These teachings do not demand effort. They simply ask for openness. So take a slow, gentle breath. Allow your shoulders to soften. Let the weight of the day settle just a little. As you listen, imagine what it might feel like to move through life without fear. Not recklessly, not blindly, but with a quiet steadiness in the heart. Imagine moving the way a river moves toward the sea. The river does not worry about the rocks in its path. It does not lie awake at night imagining future storms. It flows adapting to what it meets, trusting its own nature. This is the invitation at the heart of Buddhist teaching. Not to become numb to life, but to become free within it. Not to pretend that difficulties do not exist, but to meet them with a mind that is open and a heart that is at peace. So now as the long night stretches gently ahead of us, let us begin this journey together. Take another slow breath and allow the stories to carry you. At the entrance of many Buddhist temples and meditation halls around the world, there is often a statue, standing or sitting in quiet stillness. Perhaps you have seen this image before. A calm figure, a peaceful face, eyes gently lowered as if looking inward and at the same time open to the world. One hand is raised, the palm faces outward. The fingers are relaxed, neither clenched nor pushing anything away. This is not a random gesture. It is an ancient symbol known as the Abhaya Mudra, the gesture of fearlessness. In the ancient Pali language, Abhaya means without fear. Not the absence of danger, not recklessness, but the absence of inner trembling. When people stand before this image, Something subtle often happens before they even understand why. The breath slows, the shoulders soften, the mind pauses, if only for a moment. The raised hand does not command. It does not demand belief. It simply offers a quiet message. Stop. You do not need to run. Here you may rest. In the modern world, fear rarely appears in obvious forms. It is no longer a wild animal in the forest or a shadow in a cave. Today, fear is quieter, more refined, more constant. It lives in the slightly racing heart, in the background tension that never fully leaves the body, in the feeling of being on edge even when nothing is wrong. We fear failure, we fear loss, we fear judgment, we fear the future. And often, we fear our own thoughts, and what is most strange is this: most of the time we do not even realize that fear is present. It becomes the background, the normal state, the air we live in. This is why the Abhaya Mudra still speaks so clearly today. The raised hand is not directed outward toward the world. It is directed inward toward the place where fear truly lives. In Buddhism, symbols are not meant to be worshipped in a distant way. They are meant to function as mirrors. When we look at the gesture of fearlessness, we are not only looking at the Buddha. We are being invited to look at ourselves. Quietly, gently we are asked, what fear are you carrying right now? How long have you been holding it? And do you still need to? The Abhaya Mudra does not promise a life without difficulty. It does not suggest that the world will become safe and predictable. Its message is humbler and deeper. It tells us that even when life is uncertain, we can remain steady inside. Even when fear arises, we do not have to become fear. Peace does not come from controlling circumstances. It comes from how we meet them. In the ancient stories, the Buddha is never described as someone who fights fear with force. He does not run. He does not resist. He does not overpower. He stands. He remains present. And in that presence, fear loses its strength. This image is not meant to feel distant or unreachable. It points to a capacity that exists within every human being. But to understand this more deeply, we must move beyond the symbol. We must enter a story where fear appeared in its most raw and powerful form. A story about a wild elephant and what happens when fear is met with stillness instead of resistance. There is an old story from the life of the Buddha that has been told and retold for centuries. It takes place not in a temple but on a narrow path through a forest. The Buddha was walking quietly, accompanied by a small group of followers. The day was ordinary, the path familiar, and then without warning, fear appeared. From deeper within the forest came the sound of heavy footsteps. Branches cracked, leaves scattered. A wild elephant burst into view. The animal had been driven into madness, its mind clouded by agitation and pain. Its great body charged forward with unstoppable force. Those who saw it coming felt terror rise instantly. Anyone else would have run. Anyone else would have tried to escape. The followers panicked. Some froze, some cried out. But the Buddha did not move. He did not step back. He did not turn away. He stopped, and as the elephant thundered closer, the Buddha raised his hand, palm outward, the gesture of fearlessness. This moment is important, not because of what the elephant did, but because of what the Buddha did not do. He did not fight fear with fear. He did not meet violence with panic. He did not add more agitation to what was already out of control. He stood completely present. The stories say that as the elephant approached, something unexpected happened. The animal began to slow. Its charge lost momentum. The rage that had been driving it forward started to dissolve. Finally, the great elephant stopped. Its massive body grew still. In some versions of the story, it lowered its head. The danger did not disappear because of force. It dissolved because it was no longer being reflected back. This story is not meant to suggest that wild animals are always harmless. It is not a lesson in recklessness. It is a teaching about energy. Fear has a strange quality. It multiplies when it meets resistance. It feeds on panic. It grows stronger when it is mirrored. But when fear meets stillness, when it meets clarity instead of reaction, its momentum begins to fade. The elephant represents something universal. It is the fear that charges toward us in our own lives. The sudden wave of panic, the overwhelming thought, the moment when everything inside wants to run. Fear tells us, move now, do something, escape. But the Buddha shows another possibility. He shows that not every charge requires retreat. Not every threat requires panic. Not every fear requires action. Sometimes the most powerful response is not reacting at all. When we are afraid, our bodies tighten, our breathing becomes shallow, our minds narrow. We become unpredictable. And unpredictability often invites more fear in ourselves and in others. But when we remain grounded, something shifts. Our calm becomes visible. Our steadiness becomes contagious. This is not only true with animals. It is true in human relationships. It is true in moments of conflict. It is true when we face our own inner storms. A calm presence has a regulating effect. When we are not afraid, we stop signaling danger to everything around us. The Buddha did not calm the elephant by controlling it. He calmed it by refusing to become frightened himself. This is the deeper meaning of the Abhaya Mudra. The raised hand does not push fear away. It does not deny its existence. It simply says, I see you, but I will not become you. This teaching is subtle, and it is easy to misunderstand. It does not mean we should ignore danger. It does not mean we should pretend fear does not exist. It means that fear does not have to lead. When fear leads, everything becomes distorted. Our perception narrows, our actions lose wisdom. But when awareness leads, fear loses its authority. The Buddha's stillness was not weakness. It was the absence of inner conflict. And this absence of conflict changed the entire situation. The world often tells us that fear keeps us safe, that anxiety is necessary, that constant alertness is wisdom. But this story offers a different insight. Fear, when it rules us, often creates more danger than it prevents. It pushes us to act without clarity, to flee without understanding. Stillness, on the other hand, creates space. Space to see clearly. Space to respond wisely. This is why the story has endured, because each of us has faced our own charging elephant. A moment when fear felt overwhelming. A moment when everything inside screamed to run. And perhaps in some of those moments we noticed that reacting made things worse. The Buddha's teaching is not dramatic. It is quiet. It asks us to pause, to breathe, to stand still inside. And from that stillness, something extraordinary can happen. Fear may slow. The situation may soften. And even if danger does not disappear, we meet it with clarity instead of panic. But to do this, we must understand something essential. Fear does not arise out of nowhere. It has a history. It has been shaped and reinforced over time. To truly loosen its grip, we must look at how fear is learned, and that is where our journey goes next. The image of the raised hand stays with us, the stillness, the quiet refusal to panic, the moment when fear loses its momentum because it is no longer being fed. But as powerful as this image is, a question naturally arises. If fear can dissolve in the presence of stillness, why do so many of us live with fear every day? Why does fear feel so constant, so familiar, so deeply rooted? The answer is not that we are weak. It is not that something is wrong with us. It is that fear has been taught. Over time, gently, persistently, fear has been woven into the way we see the world. It has been passed down through warnings, expectations, and unspoken rules. It has settled into the body until it feels natural. To understand how to loosen fear's grip, we must look not at dramatic moments of danger, but at the quiet beginnings, at childhood, at learning, at the moment when innocence first met caution. So now, let us turn away from the forest path and the charging elephant and look instead at the early roots of fear, at how fear is learned and why it is not who we truly are. If we look closely at the beginning of our lives, something gentle and revealing appears. We see that fear was not always here. A very young child does not arrive in this world burdened with worry about the future. They do not lie awake imagining failure or loss. They do not measure their worth through comparison or judgment. Instead, they move toward life with openness. They reach for what shines. They touch what is warm. They look at the unfamiliar with curiosity rather than suspicion. A flame is beautiful before it becomes dangerous. A loud sound is interesting before it becomes frightening. An animal is a wonder before it becomes a threat. In these early moments, the world is not yet divided into safe and unsafe. It is simply alive. Fear enters later, slowly and quietly. It rarely arrives as something dramatic. More often, it is woven into ordinary moments. A warning spoken with love. A raised voice meant to protect. A look of concern that lingers a little too long. Parents teach children how to survive, and much of that teaching is necessary. Fire does burn. Roads are dangerous. Some actions do have consequences. But alongside these useful lessons, another message often slips in unnoticed. The message that the world is something to be guarded against. The message that mistakes are dangerous. The message that safety comes only through constant vigilance. Over time, the child learns not only how to be careful, but how to be tense. Fear begins to take residence in the body. It settles into the shoulders that are always slightly raised. It hides in the breath that never fully relaxes. It becomes the quiet hum of alertness that follows a person even into rest. And because this process happens gradually, fear begins to feel natural. It no longer feels like something learned. It feels like part of who we are. Culture reinforces this learning. Stories are told again and again about what can go wrong. News travels fastest when it carries danger. Success is praised, but failure is quietly shamed. Children learn very early that approval can be withdrawn, that love may feel conditional, that being careful is safer than being curious. None of this is usually done with cruelty. It is simply passed along generation after generation. Like an inheritance, no one remembers choosing. As adults, we carry this inheritance forward. We may no longer remember the first moment we learned to be afraid, but the pattern remains. We worry about things that have not happened. We replay conversations that are already over. We brace ourselves for losses that may never come. The mind stays busy, scanning for threat, long after the original danger has passed. And because everyone around us is doing the same thing, it feels normal. Fear becomes the background noise of modern life. Yet when we pause and look honestly, something becomes clear. Much of this fear is not responding to what is happening now. It is responding to what might happen. It is rehearsing imagined futures. It is guarding against memories from the past. The present moment, when examined closely, is often far less threatening than the mind suggests. But fear, once learned, does not easily let go. It continues its work even when it is no longer needed. The Buddha observed this deeply. He saw that suffering often arises not from the world itself, but from the stories the mind tells about the world. Fear, in this sense, is a story repeated so often that the body believes it. And once the body believes it, fear no longer needs evidence. It arises automatically, shaping perception before awareness has a chance to respond. Understanding this is not about blaming parents, society, or ourselves. No one intentionally teaches fear for harm. It is passed on because it once seemed necessary, but what was once useful can become a burden when carried too far. When fear becomes constant, it no longer protects, it exhausts, it narrows life. It keeps us from resting even when rest is possible. The important realization is this: if fear was learned, it can be unlearned. Not through force, not by trying to erase it, but through awareness, through gently noticing when fear arises and asking whether it truly belongs to this moment. This noticing does not make fear disappear overnight, but it begins to loosen its grip. It creates space between who we are and what we have learned to carry. Before we can meet fear with understanding, we must first see it clearly. We must notice how it shows up, how it moves us, how often it is inherited rather than chosen. Only then does another possibility emerge, the possibility of responding instead of reacting, the possibility of resting inside the present moment without constant defense. And to see this process even more clearly, it helps to look at a surreal moment, a moment when learned fear reveals itself all at once, a moment when the body reacts before the mind can question. That is where our next story takes us. Fear, once learned, does not remain a single reaction to danger. Over time, it changes form. It becomes something quieter and more persistent. It settles into the background of daily life and turns into a kind of constant tension that we rarely question. Many people no longer feel fear as a sharp emotion. Instead, they feel it as restlessness, as unease, as a sense that something is always slightly wrong even when everything appears fine. This is how fear survives. It disguises itself as responsibility, as preparation, as wisdom. We tell ourselves that worrying keeps us safe, that imagining the worst makes us realistic, that staying alert proves we are mature and aware. But the body tells a different story. The body grows tired. The breath becomes shallow. Sleep becomes lighter. The mind never fully rests. Fear, when it becomes chronic, does not protect us. It exhausts us. Many people live this way for years without realizing what is happening. They wake up already tense. They move through their days anticipating problems. They replay conversations that are finished and rehearse conversations that may never happen. Even moments of quiet are quickly filled with mental noise. The mind scans for threats, not because danger is present, but because it has learned that scanning is what it is supposed to do. There is a phrase often attributed to Buddhist teaching: we spend our lives running from the shadows of our own minds. This is not meant as criticism. It is an observation. A shadow has no substance of its own. It exists only because of light and position. Yet when we mistake the shadow for something solid, we run. We tense, we react, and the running itself becomes the problem. Much of what we fear exists only as images in the mind. Futures that have not arrived, outcomes that may never occur, judgments that have not been spoken, and still the body responds as if the danger were real. The heart races, the muscles tighten. Stress hormones flood the system, again and again, day after day. This is how fear becomes a way of living rather than a response to a moment. The Buddha saw this clearly. He observed that suffering often continues long after the original cause has passed. The mind keeps striking the same note even when the music has changed. Fear becomes habitual, automatic. It arises not because it is needed, but because it has been practiced. When fear reaches this stage, people often believe it is part of their personality. They say, "I am just an anxious person," or "I have always been this way." But this belief hides an important truth. What has been practiced can be softened. What has been learned can be relearned. Fear feels permanent only because it has been repeated for so long. Seeing this does not mean fear disappears immediately, but it changes the relationship. Instead of being inside fear, we begin to observe it. Instead of obeying it, we begin to question it. We notice when fear arises without a clear reason. We notice how often it pulls us away from the present moment, and in that noticing, something loosens. This is not a dramatic transformation. It is a quiet shift, a small pause before reacting, a moment of awareness before tightening. Over time, these small moments accumulate. The grip of fear weakens not through force but through understanding. We stop running from shadows because we begin to recognize them as shadows. And yet understanding fear in general is only part of the journey. To truly see how deeply learned fear operates, it helps to witness it in a single clear moment. A moment when fear reveals itself instantly before thought can intervene. A moment when the body reacts first and understanding comes later. There is such a moment in the next story. A moment when fear appears suddenly, powerfully, and without explanation. And through it we are shown just how inherited and unquestioned fear can be. A small meditation center once stood quietly on an ordinary street. There was nothing about the building that drew attention. No signs announcing wisdom, no symbols meant to impress. From the outside, it looked like any other modest house where people lived simple lives. Inside, the rooms were clean and uncluttered. Cushions rested on the floor. Light entered softly through the windows. The air carried a sense of calm that did not ask to be explained. People came to this place to sit in silence. They came to rest their minds, to breathe, to listen. There were no sermons, no pressure to believe anything in particular. Just space, just stillness. One day a man arrived at the center with a very different purpose. He was not seeking peace. He was not looking for rest. He was an investigator trained to evaluate groups he believed might be harmful or deceptive. His work had taught him to be cautious, to expect danger, to assume that unfamiliar beliefs often concealed hidden intentions. He entered the center already alert. A young woman greeted him at the door. Her voice was calm, her movements unhurried. She welcomed him and invited him inside. She answered his questions openly, There was nothing defensive in her manner, nothing secretive. As she guided him through the rooms, the man observed carefully. He noted the simplicity, the quiet, the absence of anything that looked threatening. As they walked, his body slowly began to relax. His shoulders lowered slightly, his breathing softened. This did not look like a dangerous place. These did not appear to be dangerous people. Then they entered one final room. At the far end of the room stood a statue of the Buddha. It was not large or imposing. It was made of bronze, perhaps 3 feet tall. The expression on its face was gentle, almost tender. One hand rested near the body. The other reached downward, touching the earth. The figure radiated stillness. The moment the man saw the statue, something inside him shifted abruptly. His breath caught. His muscles tightened. His heart began to race. Without speaking, without asking a question, without pausing to look more closely, he turned and ran. He rushed out of the room, out of the building, down the street. He ran as though something were chasing him. Inside the meditation center, the young woman stood frozen in confusion. Nothing had moved. Nothing had changed. The statue remained exactly as it had been moments before, silent, unmoving, harmless. This story is not about logic. It is about conditioning. The statue did not threaten the man. It did not speak. It did not act. It simply existed. And yet his body responded as if he were in immediate danger. Fear erupted without warning, bypassing thought entirely. Somewhere in his life, this man had learned to associate the image of the Buddha with danger. Perhaps he had been told stories that framed unfamiliar spiritual symbols as dark or corrupt. Perhaps he had absorbed warnings that linked difference with threat. Perhaps the fear did not even originate with him, but had been passed down through generations, carried unconsciously, until it found an object to attach itself to. Whatever the source, the fear was already there, waiting. The statue merely activated it. This is how learned fear operates. It does not ask permission. It does not present evidence. It arises automatically, shaped by past conditioning rather than present reality. The body reacts first. The mind tries to catch up later. Many of us recognize this pattern in our own lives, though it may not appear as dramatic. We avoid certain conversations without knowing why. We tense in familiar situations even when nothing is wrong. We pull back from experiences not because they are dangerous, but because they are unfamiliar. We run from statues, not literal ones perhaps, but internal images that trigger old responses, a tone of voice that reminds us of criticism, a situation that echoes a past failure, a silence that feels threatening because it once was. In these moments, fear does not belong to the present. It belongs to memory. It belongs to learning. It belongs to stories we were told long before we had the ability to question them. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from this confusion. We mistake the past for the present. We respond to old conditioning as if it were current danger. And because the body believes the threat is real, the fear feels real. This does not make us foolish. It makes us human. The man who ran from the statue was not weak. He was not irrational. He was conditioned. His fear had been rehearsed long before that day, and when the right symbol appeared, the rehearsal became action. What matters is not that fear arose, but that it was unseen, unquestioned, unexamined. Because when fear is not seen clearly, it controls us. The statue offered an opportunity, a chance to pause, to breathe, to look again. But fear does not pause on its own. It moves quickly, pushing the body into motion before awareness can intervene. This is why understanding fear is so important, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived experience. Fear is not always loud. Sometimes it appears suddenly fully formed, convincing us that escape is the only option. And yet, if we could slow the moment down, if we could bring awareness into that instant, something different might become possible. The story of the man and the statue invites us to ask a quiet question. When fear arises in us, what are we truly responding to? What is happening now and what is being remembered? To explore this more deeply, we must look at what lies beneath such reactions. We must examine how fear is inherited, how it is passed from one mind to another, and how easily it disguises itself as truth. That is where this story continues. Fear rarely begins with us. More often, it arrives quietly, carried from one life into another, passed along without words. By the time we encounter it, it already feels familiar, as though it belongs to us. And because it feels familiar, we rarely stop to question it. The man who ran from the statue did not decide to be afraid in that moment. His fear was already prepared. It had been shaped long before his feet touched the floor of the meditation center. The statue was only the trigger. The real cause lived much deeper. This is how inherited fear works. It hides inside beliefs we never chose, inside warnings that were repeated so often they became truth, inside stories told with certainty but never examined. Over time, these stories settle into the nervous system. They become reflexes rather than thoughts. A child learns not only from what is said, but from what is felt. When a parent stiffens at a certain symbol, the child learns to stiffen too. When a community treats something unfamiliar with suspicion, the child absorbs that suspicion without needing an explanation. Fear travels this way, quietly, efficiently, without ever announcing itself. By adulthood, the original source is often forgotten. What remains is the reaction, the tightening, the urge to escape. And because the reaction happens instantly, it feels justified. The body does not wait for evidence. It responds to memory as if it were present danger. This is why fear can feel so convincing even when it makes no sense. The mind may struggle to explain it, but the body insists. The heart raises, the breath shortens, the muscles prepare to move. And in that state, reflection becomes difficult. Fear does not ask us to think, it asks us to act. In Buddhist teaching, this is described as mistaking conditioning for reality. We respond to what has been learned, not to what is actually happening. The present moment becomes filtered through the past, and when the past is filled with fear, the present appears threatening, even when it is calm. The man did not see a statue. He saw a meaning that had been placed there long ago. He did not respond to bronze and stillness. He responded to a story he had inherited. And because that story had never been questioned, it controlled his body completely. This pattern repeats itself in countless ways. We avoid certain people because they remind us of someone else. We distrust situations because they resemble past pain. We reject ideas not because we have examined them, but because they challenge what we were taught to fear. Again and again, fear disguises itself as intuition, when in fact it is memory. There is nothing shameful in this. Fear is not a moral failure. It is a survival strategy that has outlived its usefulness. It once protected us. It once kept us within the boundaries of what felt safe. But when it remains unexamined, it begins to limit rather than protect. The Buddha did not teach that fear should be eliminated. He taught that it should be understood. Because once fear is seen clearly, it loses some of its power. When we recognize that a reaction belongs to the past, we are no longer fully controlled by it in the present. This recognition does not happen all at once. It happens slowly in moments of awareness. A pause before reacting. A breath taken instead of turning away. A question gently asked, what am I responding to right now? Not with judgment, but with curiosity. If the man had paused before running even for a second, the story might have unfolded differently. He might have noticed that nothing was happening, that the room was quiet, that the statue was still, that the fear belonged to something older than the moment itself. But fear moves quickly, and awareness must be trained to meet it. This is why Buddhist practice places so much emphasis on seeing clearly, not changing the world, but changing how we see it. When perception is no longer ruled by inherited fear, reality begins to appear as it is rather than as we were taught to expect it. The story of the man and the statue is not meant to judge him. It is meant to mirror us, to show how easily fear can take over when it remains unseen, and to suggest that another way is possible, a way in which fear is met with awareness instead of obedience. To move toward that possibility, we must continue exploring how fear disguises itself, how it hides behind habit and belief, and how gently it can be unlearned. That journey takes us next into a simple but powerful image. An image of darkness and what happens when even a small light is brought into it. The man ran, but the statue did not move. Nothing in the room changed. Only his perception did. This is how fear works. It does not always come from what is happening. It comes from how the mind fills what it cannot see clearly. Fear grows strongest in the dark. Not the darkness of night, but the darkness of unexamined belief. To understand fear more deeply, we must look at what happens when the light of awareness enters that darkness. There is an old image used again and again in Buddhist teaching. Not because it is dramatic, but because it is honest. It is the image of a dark house. Imagine entering a house at night. There are no lights. The air is still. Shapes fill the darkness, undefined and uncertain. In the corner of the room, something rises tall and uneven. Your heart tightens. Your body pauses. The mind begins to work quickly, filling the unknown with meaning. Is it a person? Is it a threat? Is it something that could harm you? Nothing has actually happened. No sound, no movement, and yet fear is already present. This is how the mind behaves when it cannot see clearly. In the absence of light, imagination takes over. And imagination, when fueled by past conditioning, almost always chooses danger. Now imagine that instead of turning away, you light a small candle. Just one flame. Not a floodlight. Not a dramatic reveal. As the flame steadies, the shadows soften. The tall shape becomes visible. It is only a coat hanging from a hook. Nothing in the room has changed. The walls are the same. The air is the same. The object in the corner has not moved. What has changed is perception. This is the essential teaching behind the metaphor. Fear does not disappear because the world becomes safe. Fear disappears because understanding enters. In Buddhist terms, the candle is awareness, not analysis, not force, simply seeing what is actually there. Most of what frightens us lives in the dark rooms of the mind. Not because it is truly dangerous, but because it has never been examined. We sense it, we react to it, but we rarely turn toward it with light. The mind prefers avoidance. If something feels uncomfortable, it tells us to leave the room, to distract ourselves, to run. But avoidance does not remove fear, it preserves it. Every dark room we refuse to enter remains dark. Every shape we refuse to look at remains threatening. This is why fear can last for years, even decades. Not because it is powerful, but because it has never been met. The Buddha did not teach that we should destroy fear. He taught that we should illuminate it. When fear is illuminated, it often reveals itself to be made of thought, memory, and habit, not of present danger. This does not mean that nothing in life is ever dangerous. It means that fear often overestimates danger long after the situation has passed. The body remembers. The nervous system remembers, and without awareness, the memory is mistaken for reality. Think of how many fears operate this way. The fear of speaking, the fear of being judged, the fear of stillness, the fear of being alone. When examined closely, many of these fears are not about what is happening now. They are about what once happened or what we imagine might happen. The candle of awareness does not argue with fear. It does not shame it. It simply shows what is there. And when what is there is seen clearly, fear often loses its authority. This is why meditation is not about creating calm. It is about creating light. When we sit quietly and observe the mind, we are lighting candles in rooms that have long been avoided. Thoughts arise, sensations appear, old fears surface. At first, this can feel uncomfortable, like walking deeper into the house instead of out the door. But with time, something changes. The mind learns that seeing is safer than running, that awareness is gentler than avoidance, and slowly, room by room, fear begins to loosen. Not because it is pushed away, but because it is no longer needed. The dark house is not the enemy. The absence of light is. When awareness is present, even difficult emotions can be held without panic. They become experiences rather than threats, sensations rather than commands. This is the quiet power of understanding. It does not fight fear, it outgrows it. The man who ran from the statue was in a dark room. Not because the statue was dangerous, but because the light of understanding had not yet been brought to that inherited belief. And this is not a failure. It is simply where the journey begins. Before fear can dissolve, it must be seen. Before it can be released, it must be understood. And understanding does not require force. It requires presence. From this simple image, the path begins to unfold. From symbol to experience, from thought to embodiment. And that path now leads us somewhere older and quieter, a place where fear and awareness meet in the most direct way possible. The forest. Understanding can begin in the mind. But fear does not live in the mind alone, it lives in the body. To truly loosen its grip, there comes a moment when insight must move beyond thought and step into lived experience. That is why in Buddhist tradition, some teachings are not given in words but in places. Places where fear cannot hide behind concepts. Places where the body must meet uncertainty directly. One such place is the forest. The forest is not symbolic. It does not explain itself. It does not soften its edges to make us comfortable. This is why it has always been used as a teacher. When the young monk first arrived at the forest monastery, His body knew fear before his mind could name it. The air felt different here, heavier, alive. The sounds did not follow human rhythms. Insects clicked and hummed through the night. Leaves shifted without warning. Something moved in the undergrowth, long after the light had gone. In the city where he had grown up, darkness meant emptiness. Closed shops, quiet streets, predictability. Here, darkness meant presence. Every shadow felt occupied, every sound felt intentional. On his first night alone in the small hut, his body refused to relax. The floor was thin bamboo, the walls barely separated inside from outside. The forest pressed close breathing. His mind filled the silence with images. Snakes coiling near the door, insects crawling across his skin, unseen animals watching from just beyond the light. Nothing had happened. But fear did not need proof. His breath became shallow, his muscles remained tight. Sleep felt impossible. This was not fear of death, it was fear of vulnerability. In the forest, there was nowhere to hide. No walls thick enough to block sensation. No distractions to numb the mind. Every sensation arrived unfiltered. The monk noticed how fear moved through his body. It began in the stomach, a tightening, then spread upward into the chest. The throat closed slightly, the jaw clenched. His training had taught him to observe, but observation felt fragile here. The forest did not care that he was observing. At some point in the night, something brushed against the outer wall of the hut. Not violently, not aggressively, just contact. His heart raced, his entire body prepared to flee. But flee to where there was nowhere safer than where he already was. This realization unsettled him even more. Fear, he began to understand, was not responding to danger. It was responding to uncertainty. The forest offered no guarantees. It did not promise safety. It did not promise harm. It simply existed. And in that existence, the monk's need for control was exposed. In the city, fear had been manageable. Predictable dangers, clear boundaries. Here, fear was raw. It did not hide behind thought. It lived directly in the body. This is why the forest has always been used in Buddhist practice. Not to punish practitioners, but to strip away illusions. In the forest, fear cannot be reasoned with. It must be met. The monk tried repeating teachings in his mind. Impermanence, non-harming, loving kindness. But the words felt thin against the sound of the night. This was not a failure of practice. It was the beginning of it. Fear was showing itself honestly. As the night stretched on, he noticed something subtle. The forest was loud but not hostile. The insects followed their rhythms. The animals moved according to need, not intention. Nothing in the forest was focused on him. The fear he felt was not being reflected back. Still, his body did not trust this yet. Trust, he would later learn, does not come from reassurance. It comes from repeated, direct experience. As dawn approached, the sounds shifted. Birdsong emerged slowly. The darkness thinned, and with the light, his fear softened. Not because the forest had changed, but because visibility returned. This pattern would repeat. Each night, fear would arise. Each morning, it would ease. And gradually, a question began to form in him. If the forest had not harmed him yet, despite all his fear, what exactly was he afraid of? This question did not seek an answer. It opened a doorway. Fear, he began to sense, was not coming from the forest. It was coming from his own resistance to uncertainty. But this understanding was still fragile, intellectual, incomplete. The forest was not finished teaching him, and neither was fear. There was someone who had lived here long enough to understand this deeply. An older monk, quiet, unimpressed by danger. Someone who had learned that fear behaves very differently when it is not fed. The young monk would speak to him soon, and what he would hear would begin to change everything. The older monk did not ask many questions. He listened. The young monk spoke of the nights, of the sounds, of the way his body refused to rest, of how fear rose without invitation again and again. When he finished, there was silence. Not the awkward kind, the settled kind. The older monk looked at him gently and said, "You are afraid because you believe the forest is watching you." The young monk nodded. It felt true. "The forest is not watching you," the older monk continued. "You are watching the forest." This was not comforting, but it was honest. He explained that fear grows when the mind imagines itself as separate, alone, surrounded by threat. In the forest, he said, there is no enemy looking for you. There are only beings trying to live. Snakes do not plan. Insects do not resent. Animals do not attack because they sense fear. They react to movement, to disturbance, to threat. When you're afraid, the older monk said, your body tightens, your breath sharpens, your movements become uncertain. This is what animals notice. Fear, he explained, broadcasts itself. It changes posture. It changes rhythm. It announces instability. But when you are calm, he said, you are just another presence, another tree, another stone, another part of the forest. The young monk struggled with this. It felt too simple. "So I should not be afraid?" he asked. The older monk smiled. "You should not fight fear," he said. "You should stop feeding it. Fear feeds on resistance, on imagination, on the constant checking of what might happen next." Each time the young monk lay awake listening for danger, his attention fed the fear. Each time he tightened against the dark, the fear grew stronger. Tonight, the older monk said, "Do nothing special. Sit, breathe. Let the forest be the forest. If fear comes," he added, "let it come. Do not chase it away. Do not argue with it. Do not obey it. Just feel it." That night, the young monk returned to his hut. The forest was the same. The sounds were the same. The darkness was the same. Fear came. His chest tightened. His breath shortened. But this time he did not move. He noticed the sensation of fear itself. Not the story, not the images, just the raw feeling. Heat, pressure, energy. Fear was not an enemy. It was a sensation. And sensations, he knew, change. Minutes passed. Fear rose, then shifted, then softened. The forest did nothing. No snake appeared. No attack came. Nothing happened. Night after night he practiced this. He stopped scanning the dark, stopped rehearsing danger. He learned to lie still, to breathe slowly, to let fear rise and fall without command. And something unexpected happened. The forest began to feel neutral. Not safe, not dangerous, simply present. One night something brushed across his arm. His body reacted briefly, then settled. An insect, nothing more. Another night a snake passed near the hut. It did not stop. It did not notice him. The older monk had been right. When fear was not fed, it lost its urgency. When the body softened, the forest responded in kind. This was not magic. It was alignment. Fear had made him unpredictable. Calm made him invisible. The young monk did not become fearless overnight. Fear still arose, but it no longer ruled him. He understood something essential. Fear was not warning him about the forest. It was revealing his own resistance to uncertainty, and when that resistance softened, so did fear. The forest had not changed. He had. This teaching did not stay in the forest. It followed him. Into meditation halls, into conversations, into moments of uncertainty elsewhere in life. He saw the same pattern again and again. Fear tightens, calm opens. Fear isolates, calm connects. Fear demands control. Calm allows. And from this understanding, another question naturally emerged. If the fear can be quieted by understanding and presence, why is it so often used to guide human behavior? Why do so many systems rely on fear when peace is clearly more powerful? That question leads us next into the human world, into families, into societies, into the subtle ways fear becomes a tool. Fear does not live only in forests or in the body. It lives quietly in homes, in classrooms, in workplaces, in the invisible structures that shape human behavior. Unlike the fear of the forest, this fear is rarely obvious. It wears familiar clothes: responsibility, discipline, obedience, success. From a very young age, many of us learn a simple equation. If you do this, something bad will happen. If you fail, you will lose love. If you disobey, you will be punished. Often these messages are not spoken harshly. They are spoken with concern, with authority, with the belief that fear will keep us safe. A child is told to behave not because understanding has arisen, but because consequences are threatened. At first, this seems effective. The child complies. Order is maintained, but something subtle happens. The child does not learn wisdom. The child learns fear. Over time, fear becomes the motivator, not care, not clarity, not inner responsibility. Fear becomes the voice that guides action. This pattern does not end in childhood. As adults, many people live under the same invisible pressure. Work harder, or you will be replaced. Stay in line, or you will be excluded. Buy this, or you will fall behind. Fear becomes a currency. Those who are afraid are easier to direct, easier to manipulate, easier to exhaust. A fearful mind does not question deeply. It reacts. It looks for safety and approval. It confuses control with care. It obeys, hoping to avoid loss. The Buddha saw this clearly. He did not build his teaching on fear. He did not threaten punishment. He did not promise reward for obedience. Instead, he invited observation. Look, he said, see what fear does to the mind. See how it narrows perception. See how it creates suffering. Fear may produce compliance, but it does not produce peace. A person who acts only from fear never rests. Even when they succeed, they are anxious about losing what they have gained. Even when they are praised, they fear the moment praise stops. This is a life lived in tension. The Buddha offered something radically different. He offered understanding instead of threat, compassion instead of control, freedom instead of fear. When a person understands the consequences of action, fear is no longer needed. When a person sees clearly that harm leads to suffering, kindness arises naturally. This is the difference between control and wisdom. Control relies on fear. Wisdom relies on seeing. Fear demands obedience. Wisdom invites responsibility. The young monk in the forest did not become calm because he was threatened. He became calm because he understood. Understanding relaxed him. Fear had only tightened him. This is why fear, though common, is a poor teacher. It creates behavior without clarity, movement without freedom, and when fear becomes the foundation of a life, that life remains fragile. Remove the threat and everything collapses. The Buddha's path does not collapse without fear. It deepens because it is built on understanding, not intimidation. To live without fear does not mean living without care. It means living without coercion. It means choosing wisely, not because you are afraid of punishment, but because you see clearly. And this clarity becomes especially important when fear turns inward, because the most powerful control is not external. It is the fear we direct at ourselves. The voice that says, if you fail, you are worthless. If you rest, you are lazy. If you stop striving, you will be left behind. This voice does not come from the forest. It comes from conditioning, and it leads us directly to the next quiet fear many people carry: the fear of stillness, the fear of sitting quietly with nothing to distract us, the fear of meditation itself. Fear is not always imposed from the outside. Sometimes it becomes our own voice. After years of being guided by fear, many people no longer need external control. They carry it within themselves. A quiet pressure, an inner warning, a constant vigilance, and nowhere does this become more visible than in moments of stillness, when nothing is demanded, when no one is watching, when the noise finally fades. It is then that fear often speaks the loudest. Not fear of danger, but fear of silence. Fear of closing the eyes. Fear of losing control. Fear of meeting the mind without distraction. This is why for many people, the idea of meditation itself feels unsettling. And that is where our next story begins. For many people, the idea of meditation sounds peaceful in theory. A quiet room, closed eyes, nothing to do. And yet when the moment comes, something resists. The body fidgets. The breath feels strange. The mind searches urgently for distraction. It is not boredom. It is not laziness. It is fear. Not the fear of danger, but the fear of stillness. Stillness removes escape routes. It closes the doors we usually run through. When the eyes close and the body stops moving, there is nowhere else to go. Whatever lives inside us comes forward. This is why some people feel uneasy the moment meditation begins. Their heart rate increases. Their thoughts accelerate. A subtle panic arises without an obvious cause. Nothing is happening, and yet something feels wrong. In daily life, movement protects us from ourselves. Noise covers inner noise. Activity distracts from sensation. Stillness takes all of that away. When we stop, the mind loses its usual anchors. No tasks, no stimulation, no future planning, and suddenly the inner world becomes audible. Thoughts appear uninvited. Memories surface. Emotions rise. For someone unaccustomed to this, stillness can feel unsafe. What if something overwhelms me? What if I lose control? What if I discover something I cannot handle? These fears rarely come from experience. They come from imagination. The mind projects danger onto silence because silence is unfamiliar. Many people have spent their entire lives without ever being truly still. Even rest is filled with screens. Even sleep is preceded by noise. Silence becomes foreign, and what is unfamiliar often feels threatening. In Buddhist teaching, this is not considered a failure. It is considered normal. The mind is like water that has been constantly stirred. When it finally stops, all the sediment rises before it settles. The initial turbulence is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that things are finally being seen. But without understanding, this phase is easily mistaken for danger. Some people conclude that meditation is harmful, that stillness is risky, that it opens doors better left closed. Teachers who have guided students for decades often respond gently to these fears. In all my years, one teacher said, "I have never seen anyone harmed by sitting quietly and breathing. I have seen people frightened by what they encounter, but never harmed." This distinction matters. Fear can arise. Discomfort can arise. But fear is not damage. Stillness does not create suffering. It reveals what has already been there. And revelation, while uncomfortable at first, is the beginning of healing. The Buddha never taught that we should force the mind to be quiet. He taught that we should allow the mind to be seen. Meditation is not about control. It is about permission. Permission for thoughts to arise and pass. Permission for sensations to be felt without reaction. Permission for fear to appear without command. When fear arises in meditation, the instruction is not to escape. It is to observe, not the story, not the meaning, the sensation. Where is fear felt? Is it in the chest, the stomach, the throat? What happens if it is allowed to be there without judgment? Most people discover something surprising. Fear changes, it moves, it softens, it loses intensity. Not because it was fought, but because it was seen. The fear of meditation often dissolves the moment meditation is truly understood. Stillness is not a trap. It is a safe container. Nothing is asked of you in stillness. Nothing is required. You are not being tested. You are not being evaluated. You are simply being invited to sit with what is already present. For some, this invitation feels radical. After a lifetime of striving, doing nothing feels irresponsible. But stillness is not neglect. It is care. It allows the nervous system to rest. It allows the mind to reset. It allows fear to release its grip. People who persist gently through the initial discomfort often report a shift. The silence that once felt threatening begins to feel spacious. The mind that once felt overwhelming begins to feel workable. And the fear that once warned against stopping reveals itself to be unnecessary. Stillness becomes not an enemy, but a refuge. This is why in Buddhist tradition, silence is not avoided, it is honored. Because in silence, nothing is added. And when nothing is added, what remains can finally be understood. From this understanding, another doorway opens. If stillness can teach us so much about fear, what happens when we enter a place where stillness is not cultivated, but simply exists? A place where nothing is trying to teach, yet everything is. That place is not the meditation hall. It is the natural world. And among all natural teachers, there is one that asks nothing of us and yet offers everything: the forest. The forest does not instruct, it does not explain, it does not correct. And yet those who spend time within it often find themselves changed. Unlike meditation halls, the forest does not ask you to sit still. It does not ring a bell. It does not offer guidance. It simply exists. This is precisely why it teaches so deeply. When people first enter the forest, they often bring the same urgency they carry everywhere else. The same pace, the same tension. They walk quickly. They look ahead. They listen for what might go wrong. But the forest does not respond to urgency. Trees do not hurry. Streams do not rush. Birds do not plan tomorrow. Time moves differently here. At first, this difference feels uncomfortable. The absence of pressure feels like emptiness. The lack of demand feels strange. Many people notice an impulse to fill the silence, to check something, to do something, to move. This impulse is not curiosity, it is habit. The forest quietly exposes how accustomed we are to constant stimulation. As minutes pass, something subtle begins to happen. Breath slows without instruction. The body softens without effort. Attention widens naturally. No technique is required. The nervous system recognizes something ancient. This place is not demanding performance. The forest does not ask you to be better. It does not measure progress. It does not reward effort. It allows you to arrive as you are. In this allowance, fear behaves differently. In cities, fear feeds on noise and speed. In the forest, it has less to hold on to. There are sounds, but they are not alarming. They rise and fall without urgency. There is movement, but it follows natural rhythms. At first, the mind still labels. That sound might be something dangerous. That shadow could be something threatening. But over time, labeling grows tired. Nothing happens. The imagined danger never arrives. Gradually, the mind begins to trust the pattern. The forest teaches slowness not as a discipline, but as a fact. You cannot rush a tree. You cannot hurry a stream. You cannot force a bird to sing sooner. And as you move more slowly, your perception changes. You begin to notice details previously ignored. Light filtering through leaves, the texture of bark, the rhythm of footsteps on soil. Attention settles into the present moment without being commanded to do so. This is a crucial difference. In formal practice, we often try to place attention. In the forest, attention is drawn naturally. The mind follows what is alive. And as attention settles, fear loosens. Not because the forest is safe, but because the mind is no longer racing ahead. Fear thrives on anticipation, on imagined futures. The forest offers very little future. It offers now. This is why many people report a sense of relief after time in nature. Not excitement, not pleasure, relief. The relief of not having to prepare. The forest does not promise protection, but it also does not threaten. It treats you as part of the landscape, not as a separate problem. In this belonging, the constant self-monitoring begins to fade. The body stops asking, "Am I okay?" The mind stops asking, "What should I do next?" Presence replaces vigilance. This is not a mystical experience. It is a biological one. Human nervous systems evolved in places like this. Stillness, variation, and natural rhythm are familiar at a deep level. The forest reminds the body of something it already knows. That life does not require constant defense. And that attention can rest. That fear is not the default state. As this remembering deepens, another understanding begins to emerge. Peace is not something we create. It is something that appears when unnecessary effort falls away. The forest does not give peace. It reveals it. And this revelation prepares us for the next teaching. Because once peace is felt without effort, the question naturally arises. How do other beings live this way all the time? How do creatures who live surrounded by danger move with such ease? To answer this, we must look more closely at those who share the forest with us, those who live without worrying about tomorrow, those who embody presence effortlessly, and among them one teacher stands quietly in the meadow, the deer. In the forest, peace does not announce itself. It does not arrive with ceremony. It does not declare that something special is happening. It simply appears when nothing is interfering with it. After days of walking among trees, sitting beside streams, and listening without intention, many people notice a quiet shift. They are no longer trying to relax. They are no longer trying to be present. They simply are. Hey, this is the forest's deepest lesson. How peace is not a product of effort. It is the absence of resistance. In ordinary life, peace often feels distant because we are always adding something: judgment, expectation, urgency. The forest adds nothing. It does not ask you to improve. It does not remind you of what you should become. It does not measure time in productivity. Because of this, the mind slowly lets go of its need to manage experience. And when management stops, peace surfaces naturally. This is why people often feel calmer in nature without understanding why. Nothing magical is occurring. Nothing new is being given. What is happening is that effort is finally allowed to rest. The forest does not remove difficulty. There are insects, weather changes, uneven ground. But difficulty does not automatically become suffering. A mosquito bites, the body reacts, then the moment passes. There is no story attached, no resentment, no replaying. Suffering requires mental resistance. The forest shows how little resistance is actually needed. A teacher who spent many years living in such places once reflected on this. At first, he said, "I thought the forest was teaching me peace. But over time, I realized it was teaching me how much effort I had been adding unnecessarily." He spoke of long hours sitting quietly, not meditating in any formal way, just being there, watching light move across leaves, listening to wind pass through branches. Nothing happened, and that was the point. The absence of happening allowed something else to be noticed, a steady background of calm that had always been present but never felt, because the mind was always elsewhere. This is why peace feels rare in daily life. Not because it is absent, but because it is drowned out. The forest does not create silence. It reveals how noisy we usually are. And in this quieter field of awareness, fear begins to behave differently. It still arises, a sudden sound, an unexpected movement, but it does not linger. Without constant reinforcement, fear has nowhere to settle. This teaches something essential. Fear needs repetition. It needs attention. It needs narrative. Without these, it dissolves on its own. The forest does not argue with fear. It simply does not participate in it. This is why animals move with such ease. They respond to what is present, not to what might happen. They do not rehearse danger. They do not replay past encounters. Their awareness is immediate. Their responses are complete. Once the moment passes, they return to stillness. This quality of presence is not something animals practice. It is simply how they live. And by observing them, humans are reminded of something forgotten. That constant worry is not intelligence, it is habit. That vigilance is not wisdom, it is conditioning. The forest does not eliminate fear. It reveals that fear is optional. Peace does not need to be earned. It needs to be allowed. This understanding prepares the ground for the next quiet teacher. One who lives exposed to danger every day, yet does not carry anxiety. One who listens carefully, moves attentively, and rests fully when there is no threat. To learn from this teacher, we must leave the trees and step into the open meadow, where a deer stands quietly grazing without worry. The forest teaches by presence, but its clearest lessons are often embodied by those who live within it. Not through words, not through effort, but through the way they move, the way they pause, the way they rest. Some beings live surrounded by uncertainty every moment of their lives, and yet do not carry fear with them. They listen deeply, they respond precisely, and when there is no danger, they return to ease. By watching them, we begin to understand a different relationship with fear. Not denial, not recklessness, but full attention without anxiety. One such teacher waits quietly in the open field. A deer. The meadow opens quietly at the edge of the forest. There are no tall trees here to hide behind, no shadows thick enough to conceal movement. The land is open, exposed, honest, and standing there unhurried is a deer. Its body is slender, its muscles are ready. Its ears turn gently, catching the smallest sounds. This is not a creature without danger. Predators move through this land. Storms arrive without warning. The margin between safety and harm is thin, and yet the deer does not live in fear. It grazes calmly, its movements are light, its attention is complete. A practitioner once stood at the edge of such a meadow watching a deer for a long time. He had come from years of practice, years of sitting, years of study, and yet something about the deer unsettled him. It was not careless, it was not naive, it was awake. Every few moments the deer paused, its head lifted, its ears turned, it listened. Not anxiously, not tensely, just listening. Then finding no immediate threat, it returned to grazing. No replay, no lingering worry, no mental commentary. The practitioner noticed something important. The deer was not fearless, it was alert. This distinction matters. Fear imagines danger where there is none. Alertness meets danger when it actually appears. The deer did not rehearse escape routes. It did not scan the horizon endlessly. It did not burden itself with futures that had not arrived. Its awareness was precise, and because it was precise, it could relax. When the practitioner stepped slightly closer, the deer noticed instantly. Its body responded, not with panic, but with readiness. For a brief moment, there was tension. Then, sensing no threat, the tension released. The deer did not hold on to the response. This is something humans often forget. We respond to something once and then continue responding long after it has passed. The body tightens and the mind refuses to let go. The deer does not do this. Its responses are complete. This is why it does not live in chronic stress despite living in a dangerous world. The practitioner felt something shift as he watched. He realized that the deer trusted its own awareness. It did not need constant worry because it knew it would respond when needed. Humans often do not trust this. We worry now, so we think we will be prepared later. But worry does not prepare. It exhausts. The deer, prepared by being present. The practitioner noticed his own body as he stood there. The subtle tension he carried, even while standing still. The background vigilance he had accepted as normal. The deer carried none of this. It rested fully when resting. It moved fully when moving. There was no overlap. This clarity allowed ease. The Buddha often spoke of right mindfulness, not as constant vigilance but as appropriate attention. The deer embodied this perfectly. It did not force awareness. It did not relax carelessly. It met each moment exactly as it was. When the moment required attention, attention arose. When it did not, attention softened. The practitioner understood then that fear and awareness are not the same. Fear is noisy. Awareness is quiet. Fear scatters attention into imagined futures. Awareness gathers it into the present. Fear is tense even in safety. Awareness relaxes when there is no threat. The deer did not need philosophy to live this way. It did not need instruction. Its body knew, and this knowing existed before thought. The practitioner felt humbled. All his years of practice had been aimed at something that was already natural. Not for humans alone, but for all living beings who have not been trained to fear constantly. As the sun lowered, the deer moved slowly toward the forest. Before disappearing among the trees, it paused once more, not to look back, but to listen. Then it went on. The meadow returned to stillness. The practitioner stood there longer, feeling the echo of what he had witnessed. He understood that fear was not wisdom, it was excess. That safety did not come from constant tension, but from clarity. That the nervous system, when allowed to function, naturally knew exactly what to do. The deer had taught him without teaching, and this lesson would follow him. Into meditation, into daily life, into moments of uncertainty. He would begin to ask himself, is this fear or is this awareness? Am I reacting to what is here or to what I imagine? This question alone changed how he moved through the world. Because once fear is seen clearly, it no longer pretends to be wisdom. And once awareness is trusted, peace becomes practical. From this understanding, another subtle distinction begins to matter. The difference between fear and respect, because there are things in life that require care, attention, and humility, but not fear. To explore this difference, we now turn to another image, a river. Watching the deer, something becomes quietly clear. Not all careful attention is fear, and not all fear is wisdom. The deer listens, it stays alert, but it does not carry tension when there is no danger. This reveals an important distinction that many of us have forgotten. Fear contracts the body. It rushes ahead. It imagines harm before it appears. Respect is different. Respect is calm. It stays present. It acknowledges power without being overwhelmed by it. We often confuse these two. We call fear being careful. We call anxiety being prepared. But true care does not exhaust us. True attention does not steal our peace. To understand this difference more deeply, we turn now to a simple image, one that shows how wisdom can guide us without tightening the heart. A river. A river moves steadily through the land. It does not hesitate at stones. It does not panic when the current narrows. It adjusts. Standing at the river's edge, most people feel something immediately. A pull, a recognition of power. Water can nourish. Water can carry away. Water can overwhelm. And yet, when approached wisely, the river does not inspire fear. It inspires respect. This distinction is subtle but essential. Fear tightens the body. It rushes the mind ahead. It imagines disaster before it appears. Respect does something different. It slows us down. It sharpens attention. It keeps the heart open. A teacher once brought his students to a river during the rainy season. The water was high, the current strong. He asked them to stand quietly and observe. Some students stepped back immediately. Their bodies reacted with tension. They imagined slipping, being pulled under. Others stood closer but stiffly, their eyes fixed on the water, their muscles braced. Then the teacher spoke. "The river is powerful," he said, "but it is not angry. It does not want anything from you. If you fear it, your body will fight it. If you respect it, your body will move with care." He showed them how to cross at a wider point, how to angle the feet, how to read the flow. No fear was required, only understanding. This is how respect works. Respect does not deny danger. It acknowledges it clearly. Fear exaggerates danger. Respect sees it accurately. Fear scatters attention. Respect gathers it. Fear drains energy before anything happens. Respect conserves energy for what is actually needed. Many people live as if fear is wisdom, as if anxiety is preparation. But anxiety does not help us cross rivers. It makes us clumsy. A tense body slips more easily. A racing mind misses details. This is true far beyond the riverbank. In relationships, fear makes us defensive. We brace before harm appears. We react before listening. Respect allows boundaries without hostility. It allows care without control. In work, fear drives exhaustion. It keeps us proving ourselves endlessly. It mistakes pressure for productivity. Respect allows focus. It allows rest. It allows clarity. The Buddha often spoke of right effort. Not too tight, not too loose. Fear is too tight. Carelessness is too loose. Respect lives in the middle. It says this matters, so I will pay attention. But it does not say something terrible is about to happen. This is why respect feels steady. It does not spike the nervous system. It does not demand constant vigilance. A person guided by respect can pause, can listen, can respond rather than react. A person guided by fear cannot rest. Even in safety, the body remains braced. The deer in the meadow lived this distinction. It did not fear the open land. It respected it. The river teaches the same lesson. Water moves as it moves. It does not change because we are anxious, but our relationship to it changes everything. When we stop confusing fear with care, a quiet freedom appears. We no longer need to scan endlessly for threats. We no longer need to live with tight shoulders and shallow breath. We can meet life attentively without being consumed by what might happen. This understanding prepares us for the next story. Because once fear loosens its grip, we begin to see how often we have been trying to control what cannot be controlled. And nothing shows this more clearly than the way water moves around stone. To see this, we turn now to a woman sitting beside a stream. Respect allows us to see power clearly without trying to dominate it. But even when fear softens into respect, another habit often remains. The habit of control. We try to manage outcomes. We try to hold life in fixed shapes. We push against change, believing resistance will keep us safe. Water shows us something different. It does not fight the stone. It does not insist on a straight path. It moves around what it cannot change. To understand this kind of wisdom, we turn now to a quiet moment beside a stream. The woman came to the stream every morning before the village woke. The path was narrow, worn smooth by years of quiet footsteps. Mist hovered just above the water, lifting slowly as the sun rose. She did not come to pray. She did not come to ask for anything. She came to sit. The stream moved steadily in front of her, clear and unhurried. Water curved around stones, slipped through roots, and gathered again without effort. Nothing about its movement suggested struggle. At first she watched without thinking. Then, as often happens in stillness, thought arrived on its own. Her life felt heavy. Responsibilities pulled in different directions. Plans did not unfold as expected. People she loved did not change in the ways she hoped. She had tried to manage everything carefully, to plan, to anticipate, to prevent pain before it arrived. And yet, the tighter she held, the more exhausted she became. As she sat by the stream, she noticed something simple. The water did not push against the stones. It did not argue with the roots. It did not demand that the land rearrange itself. It moved where it could move. Where the path was open, it flowed freely. Where it was blocked, it curved. Where it was narrowed, it slowed. Where it was forced downward, it deepened. The stream never stopped being itself. She realized how differently she had been living. When faced with resistance, she pushed harder. When blocked, she blamed herself or others. When life narrowed, she tensed. She had believed that effort meant control, that holding on tightly would keep things from falling apart. But the stream showed another way. It did not control the land, it cooperated with it. This understanding did not arrive as a thought, it arrived as a feeling. Her shoulders softened, her breathing slowed. For the first time in a long while, she was not trying to fix anything. The Buddha often spoke of suffering as resistance to what is. Not acceptance as resignation, but acceptance as seeing clearly where effort belongs and where it does not. The woman had been exhausting herself by applying effort where none was needed. She thought of the moments she replayed again and again. Conversations she wished had gone differently. Decisions she feared had ruined everything. Like stones already placed in the stream. No amount of pushing could move them now. The water did not mourn the stone. It did not resent it. It simply adjusted. This did not make the stream weak, it made it resilient. As days passed, the woman continued to come, not to think, just to watch. She noticed that the stream was never exactly the same. Rain changed its speed, heat lowered its level, debris altered its course temporarily, and yet it always moved. She began to sense how much of her suffering came, not from what happened, but from her refusal to move with it. She had been standing still inside, trying to hold a moment that had already passed. One morning after heavy rain, the stream swelled. The current was strong. Branches rushed past. She felt the familiar urge to label this as dangerous, as too much. But she stayed and watched. The water did not panic. It did not rush ahead of itself. It moved faster, yes, but still within its nature. Later, when the rain stopped, the stream returned to its quieter rhythm. Nothing had been lost. This taught her something essential. Letting go is not collapse, it is adaptation. Control demands that life behave according to our plans. Wisdom asks how we can move with life as it is. The woman did not suddenly abandon responsibility. She still made choices. She still acted when action was needed. But she stopped forcing outcomes. When faced with resistance, she asked, "Is this a stone or is this fear?" If it was fear, she softened. If it was reality, she adjusted. This distinction changed everything. Her body no longer lived in constant tension. Her mind stopped rehearsing disasters. She discovered that when effort was applied appropriately, it felt light. When effort was misplaced, it felt heavy. The stream never told her what to do. It simply showed her how life moves when it is not opposed. The Buddha did not teach people to stop acting. He taught them to stop fighting reality. Action without resistance becomes fluid. Effort without fear becomes sustainable. As the woman stood to leave, she noticed how easily she rose. There was no urgency, no pressure. The stream continued on without her. And that was the final lesson. Life does not need us to control it in order to continue. But when we stop trying to hold it still, we often discover that it carries us more gently than we ever imagined. This understanding prepares us for another layer of fear. Because even when we stop trying to control life, many of us continue to punish ourselves for not doing it perfectly. To see how this unfolds, we turn next to a small mistake and an unexpected response, a young novice and a simple loaf of bread. Letting go of control softens the struggle with life. But for many people, the struggle does not end there. Even when circumstances are accepted, the mind often turns inward with judgment. Mistakes become evidence, imperfection becomes guilt, and kindness is replaced by punishment. We learn to be gentle with the world, yet remain harsh with ourselves. This is where fear changes shape once again. Not fear of danger, but fear of being wrong. To see how this fear is often met in Buddhist teaching, we turn now to a small moment. A simple mistake, a young novice, and an unexpected response. The novice had been at the monastery for only a short time. Long enough to learn the schedule, not long enough to feel at ease. He woke before dawn, followed instructions carefully, and tried to do everything correctly. Each movement mattered to him. Each task felt like a test. He believed that discipline meant never making mistakes. One morning, he was asked to help in the kitchen. It was a simple duty: prepare the bread for the day. The kitchen was quiet at that hour. Light entered softly through a small window. The smell of dough and wood filled the air. The novice worked slowly, deliberately. He repeated the steps he had been shown, measured, kneaded, waited, and then, without realizing it, he made a small error. The loaf burned, not badly, not beyond use, but enough to be noticeable. The novice felt it immediately, a tightening in the chest, a rush of heat in the face. He stared at the loaf as if it were proof of something terrible. "I have failed," he thought. No one had said this to him. No one had scolded him. The kitchen was still silent, but inside, the judgment had already begun. He imagined the disappointment of the senior monks. He imagined being seen as careless, unworthy. The mistake felt larger than it was. He carried the loaf to the abbot with lowered eyes. His body was tense, his breath shallow. He expected reprimand, he expected consequences, he expected punishment. This expectation did not come from the present moment. It came from years of learning how mistakes were treated. In many places, error is met with fear. Mistakes are corrected with shame. Learning is enforced through discomfort. The novice had absorbed this deeply. He stood before the abbot holding the loaf with both hands. "I made a mistake," he said quietly. The abbot looked at the bread, then at the novice. He did not raise his voice. He did not frown. He asked a simple question. "Is it still bread?" The novice hesitated. "Yes," he replied. "Then it can still nourish," the abbot said. The novice did not understand. He waited for the lesson, the warning, the instruction, but none came. Instead, the abbot smiled gently and said, "Sit with me for a moment." They sat together in silence. The novice's body slowly began to relax, though his mind remained alert. He was unsure what was happening. After a while, the abbot spoke again. "When you made the mistake," he said, "where did the suffering arise?" The novice answered honestly. "Here," he said, touching his chest, "before anyone said anything." "Yes." "Before any consequence." "Yes." The abbot nodded. "Then the suffering did not come from the bread," he said. "It came from how you treated yourself." This was the first time the novice had heard this idea spoken aloud. He had always assumed suffering followed mistakes, naturally. That pain was the price of being wrong. The abbot continued. In many places, he said, fear is used to prevent error. But fear does not teach skill. It teaches avoidance. When you are afraid of being wrong, you become tense. And when you are tense, you are more likely to make mistakes. The novice felt something shift as he listened. He had been trying so hard to be perfect that his body never rested. His hands shook slightly when he worked. His mind raced ahead, imagining failure. The abbot picked up the loaf. This bread is not a failure, he said. It is part of learning. Without mistakes, there is no understanding. The novice felt tears rise unexpectedly. Not from shame, but from relief. No one had ever responded to his mistakes this way. The abbot placed the loaf back on the table. Take it to the refectory, he said. Serve it. If someone notices, we will smile. If no one notices, we will smile. The novice laughed softly, surprised by himself. Something loosened inside him. He realized how often fear had guided his actions. Not care, not clarity. Fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of disappointing. Fear of losing belonging. And that fear had made everything heavier. The Buddha taught that suffering often comes not from what happens, but from the way the mind responds. The novice was beginning to see this directly. The mistake had been small, the pain had been large, and the pain had been self-inflicted. This understanding did not erase responsibility. The novice still learned how to bake more carefully. He still paid attention, but the tightness was gone. He could breathe while learning. This was a new way of being, one that did not rely on fear to create discipline, one that did not confuse punishment with growth. The loaf of bread was eaten that day. No one complained, and the novice carried something else with him as he worked. A quiet question. If fear was not necessary to learn, what else had he been holding on to unnecessarily? That question would lead him further. Because behind fear of mistakes lies something even more subtle. The absence of kindness toward oneself. And that is where the story continues. The days that followed were different for the novice. Not because his duties changed, but because the way he met them did. He still rose before dawn, still swept the paths, still worked in the kitchen when asked. But something inside had softened. When his hands moved, they were steadier. When a thought of failure arose, it did not tighten his chest as before. The fear that once hovered over every task no longer ruled him. One afternoon, as he passed through the courtyard, he noticed the abbot sitting on the steps. A small cat rested beside him. The novice paused, uncertain whether to continue walking or stop. The abbot looked up and smiled. "Come," he said. The novice sat. The cat lifted its head briefly, then settled again, unconcerned. "You are quieter these days," the abbot said. The novice nodded. "I am still learning," he replied. "But it feels different now." The abbot reached down and gently stroked the cat. "When a cat does something wrong," he said, "do you think it understands punishment?" The novice looked at the animal, its eyes half closed, its body relaxed. "No," he said slowly. "It would only become afraid." The abbot nodded. "And when it is afraid," he continued, "does it learn better or worse?" The answer was obvious. Fear does not clarify. It confuses. The abbot let his hand rest on the cat's back. "In many lives," he said, "we were taught that pain corrects behavior. that harshness produces discipline, but what it really produces is fear of being seen. The novice recognized this immediately. How many times had he hidden mistakes? How many times had he tightened his body, trying to avoid error rather than learn? When fear guides learning, the abbot said, the heart closes. And when the heart closes, understanding cannot enter. The novice remembered the moment with the bread, how the suffering had appeared before any consequence, how quickly he had punished himself. This, the abbot said, is the most common form of cruelty. Not what others do to us, but what we do to ourselves. He explained that many people live under constant self-surveillance, judging, correcting, punishing. They believe this is responsibility, but responsibility, guided by fear, creates rigidity. Responsibility, guided by kindness, creates growth. The Buddha taught that wisdom and compassion must arise together. Without compassion, wisdom becomes sharp and unforgiving. Without wisdom, compassion becomes blind. The novice began to see how little kindness he had extended toward himself. He had believed that self-criticism was humility, that harshness was devotion. But the body had suffered under this belief. Tension had replaced joy. Anxiety had replaced attention. The abbot stood, and the cat followed, brushing lightly against the novice's leg. "Watch how the cat learns," he said. "If it is startled, it runs. If it is safe, it explores. Humans are no different." The novice watched the cat wander toward the garden nose, low to the ground, completely at ease. For the first time he understood that fear had never made him better. It had only made him smaller. That evening, as he sat quietly, a mistake from the past surfaced in his mind. Usually this memory brought shame. This time something else arose. Understanding. He saw how fear had been present then too, how it had shaped his reaction, how it had prolonged the pain. He did not excuse the mistake, but he no longer attacked himself for it. The memory softened. This was unfamiliar, but it felt right. The novice realized that punishment had never been required to change his behavior. Attention had been enough. Care had been enough. Kindness had been missing. This insight did not make him careless. It made him honest. He could now see mistakes clearly without distortion, and seeing clearly, he could adjust naturally. The Buddha taught that liberation begins when suffering is met with understanding rather than resistance. The novice was tasting this for the first time. Fear had been replaced, not by indulgence, but by clarity, and clarity was lighter. This understanding would not remain confined to the monastery. It would follow him into every moment where self-judgment tried to take control. Because once we see that punishment is not required for growth, another door opens. The door to true kindness toward oneself. And from that kindness, a deeper freedom becomes possible. That is where our path leads next. When punishment falls away, a quiet question remains. If fear is no longer the teacher, what guides us now? Without self-criticism, will we lose our way? This question arises for many people because we were trained to believe that harshness keeps us responsible, but what the novice discovered was something different. When kindness replaces fear, attention becomes clearer. When gentleness replaces punishment, honesty becomes possible. This is the ground from which true transformation grows. In Buddhist practice, this inner kindness has a name. It is called loving kindness, metta. To understand how this quality works, we now turn inward. not to another story of events, but to a relationship, the relationship we have with ourselves. For many people, kindness is something given outward, offered to friends, extended to family, shared when circumstances feel safe, but turned inward, kindness often disappears. The voice inside becomes strict, unforgiving, quick to point out flaws. This voice claims it is helping, that without pressure we would fail, that without criticism we would become careless. Yet the heart knows something is wrong, because the moments we need kindness most are the moments we deny it. Buddhist practice names this inner kindness metta. Loving kindness, not sentiment, not indulgence, but a steady intention of goodwill, a wish for well-being, offered without condition. The practice begins simply, not by changing the world, but by changing the way we speak to ourselves. A teacher once said, "Notice the tone you use when you make a mistake. Is it the tone you would use with a child learning to walk, or the tone of punishment? Most people already know the answer." Metta invites us to experiment. What happens when we respond differently? Instead of tightening, we soften. Instead of judgment, we acknowledge. Instead of "I am wrong," we say "I am learning." At first, this feels unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. The mind may resist. If I am kind to myself, it argues I will lose discipline, but metta does not remove responsibility. It removes fear, and fear has never been a reliable guide. When fear leads, the body contracts, breath shortens, attention scatters, learning slows. But when kindness leads, the nervous system settles, clarity increases, honesty becomes possible. This is not theory. It is physiology. A calm body learns better than a threatened one. A mind at ease sees more clearly. The Buddha taught loving kindness as a foundation, not a reward. It is not something we earn after becoming worthy. It is something we practice because suffering is already here. The traditional phrases of metta are simple. May I be safe. May I be at ease. May I be free from suffering. At first, these words may feel hollow. The mind may say, "I do not deserve this." That belief is part of the suffering. Metta does not argue with that voice. It does not fight it. It simply offers a different tone, like placing a warm hand on a tense shoulder. Over time, something changes. The harsh voice does not disappear overnight, but it loses authority. It becomes one voice among many, not the ruler. This shift has consequences. When we are no longer at war with ourselves, we stop projecting that war outward. Relationships soften, defensiveness lessens, listening improves. Metta toward oneself naturally becomes metta toward others. Not because we try, but because the heart is no longer armored. There's a story of a practitioner who struggled deeply with meditation. Each time his mind wandered, he scolded himself. "You are failing," the voice said. "You are wasting time." The more he criticized, the more restless he became. One day, his teacher offered a simple instruction. When the mind wanders, he said, "Say thank you. Thank you for noticing. Thank you for returning." The practitioner was confused, but he tried. Something remarkable happened. The mind still wandered, but the tension vanished. Without fear, attention returned naturally. This is the quiet power of metta. It does not force change, it allows it. We often believe transformation requires intensity, effort, struggle, but some changes only occur when the grip relaxes. Fear tightens the knot. Kindness loosens it. Metta does not mean approving harmful behavior. It means separating behavior from worth. Mistakes are addressed, but the person remains intact. This distinction changes everything. When worth is no longer at stake, we can look honestly, we can repair, we can adjust. We are not defending our identity, we are caring for our actions. The Buddha described loving kindness as boundless, not because it ignores reality, but because it is not conditional on success. It remains present even when we fall short. Especially then. For many people, this is the deepest fear. If I stop punishing myself, they ask, who will I become? The answer is not chaos, the answer is wholeness. Without fear driving us, we act from clarity. Without self-hatred, we choose wisely. Metta does not weaken resolve, it strengthens it. Because actions rooted in care are sustainable, actions rooted in fear are exhausting. The Buddha taught that hatred does not end hatred, only love does. This applies inwardly as much as outwardly. Self-hatred does not create growth, self-kindness does. As we learn to offer metta to ourselves, another insight arises. Many fears we carry are self-generated. They arise from inner conflict, from constant judgment, from the belief that we must always be on guard. When kindness becomes present, these fears soften. The mind feels safer, the body rests, and from that rest a deeper understanding begins to form. We start to see how often fear is not caused by circumstances, but by the way we relate to ourselves within them. This insight leads us further, because once we recognize fear as self-created, another question emerges. What happens when fear itself becomes familiar? When worry becomes a habit, when unease feels normal? That is where our path turns next. When kindness turns inward, fear begins to loosen. But sometimes fear leaves a deeper trace. Not as panic, not as anxiety, but as hesitation. The fear of failing quietly erodes confidence. The fear of falling narrows our steps. We still stand on solid ground, yet we no longer trust our balance. This is how fear steals ability, not by force, but by doubt. To understand this more clearly, we turn now to a simple crossing, a narrow bridge, still water below, and the moment when fear does not warn us, but pushes us forward. The bridge was narrow but solid. It stretched calmly from one side to the other, resting on firm supports, its surface worn smooth by years of use. Many people crossed it every day without thinking. Children ran across it laughing. Elders walked it slowly, hands relaxed at their sides. Nothing about the bridge was dangerous. And yet, for one traveler, it became a place of deep uncertainty. He had crossed this bridge before. Many times he knew its width, its length, the way it gently swayed underfoot. But today something felt different. He stopped at the edge and looked down. Below him, water rested quietly, clear, still. It was not deep, not cold, not threatening. But the sight of it stirred something in him. A memory, perhaps. A story he had heard. A thought that arrived uninvited. What if I slip? The thought was small, almost insignificant. But once it appeared, it began to grow. His body responded before he could reason. Muscles tightened, breath shortened. He placed one foot onto the bridge. Immediately, his balance felt uncertain. This surprised him. The bridge had not changed. The ground had not shifted. Only his mind had. He took another step, this time more carefully. His arms lifted slightly as if preparing for a fall. The water below seemed farther away now. The space wider. Each step required effort. Not because the bridge demanded it, but because fear had entered the body. This is how fear steals ability, not by removing skill, but by interrupting trust. The traveler had balance. He had crossed safely countless times. But fear had placed a question between him and his own capacity, and that question weakened him. The Buddha spoke of this subtle form of suffering. When the mind becomes divided, the body cannot act freely. Fear fragments attention. Instead of moving forward naturally, the mind splits. Part watches the future, part judges the present, part braces for imagined disaster. The traveler reached the middle of the bridge. This was where fear felt strongest, not because danger increased, but because retreat and progress were now equally distant. His legs trembled. He told himself to be careful, to concentrate, but effort only made the tension worse. The bridge seemed to narrow further. Below the water reflected the sky, unchanged, unconcerned. The problem was never the crossing. It was the relationship to it. Fear had taken something neutral and turned it into a threat. The traveler remembered something a teacher once said. Fear does not prepare you, the teacher had explained. It disrupts you. Respect allows awareness. Fear steals it. The traveler paused. He stood still. Instead of looking down, he felt his feet. The wood beneath him was steady, warm from the sun. He noticed his breath, shallow, fast. He let it slow, not forcing calm, just allowing space. The trembling lessened. This moment revealed something important. Fear had not appeared to protect him. There was no danger. Fear had appeared because the mind had lost trust in the present moment. This loss of trust is one of fear's quietest harms. We often think fear keeps us safe, but more often, it keeps us from using what we already have. Skill without trust becomes fragile. Confidence without fear is simply clarity. The traveler took another step. This time he did not rush. He did not brace. He allowed his body to remember. Balance returned naturally. The arms lowered. Breath deepened. The bridge widened again. Nothing external had changed, but internally, fear was no longer leading. The traveler reached the far side and stepped onto solid ground. He did not feel relief. He felt understanding. He saw how easily fear had entered, how quickly it had weakened him, and how unnecessary it had been. This pattern exists far beyond bridges. It appears when we speak in public despite knowing our words, when we try something familiar and suddenly doubt ourselves, when fear convinces us we are less capable than we are. Fear does not announce itself as an enemy. It arrives disguised as caution, but caution rooted in fear is not wisdom, it is contraction. The Buddha taught that right understanding restores trust, not blind confidence, but grounded presence. When we see fear clearly, we stop obeying it automatically. We do not fight it. We do not suppress it. We simply stop letting it decide. The traveler walked on, but the crossing stayed with him, not as a memory of danger, but as a lesson. Fear had not warned him of a real risk. It had created one. By stealing trust, it had nearly taken balance. This insight would matter later. Because the bridge is not the only place where fear intervenes. Sometimes fear becomes so familiar that we no longer question it. It becomes a background noise, a constant tension. And when that happens, unease feels normal. This is where fear settles deepest. And this is where our path turns next. The traveler did not stop thinking about the bridge, not because it frightened him, but because it revealed something subtle. Fear had not appeared suddenly. It had crept in quietly, almost politely. A small doubt, a brief hesitation, and yet that was enough to change everything. Sometime later, the traveler encountered another crossing. This one was different. A wooden plank stretched over water, placed there for practice by a teacher. It was low to the ground, stable, wide enough to walk comfortably. Students crossed it every day as part of their training. The traveler stepped onto it easily. No hesitation, no tension. His body remembered balance. Then the teacher spoke. Tomorrow, he said, this same plank will be placed over water. The traveler felt it immediately. A tightening, a subtle withdrawal. Nothing had changed yet, but the mind had already begun to imagine. That night, the traveler slept poorly. Thoughts repeated themselves. What if I fall? What if I lose control? The plank remained the same. His body remained the same. Only the story had changed. The next day, the plank was placed over water. The water looked dark from above, still, quiet. The teacher said nothing. The traveler stepped onto the plank. Instantly, his balance felt uncertain. The same wood beneath his feet, the same distance to cross. Yet everything felt harder. His legs stiffened, his breath shortened. Fear had returned. Step by step, he forced himself forward. The effort was visible. This time he did not pause. He pushed, and that made it worse. Near the center, his foot slipped. Not because the plank was unstable, but because tension had replaced sensitivity. He fell. There was a moment of shock, then surprise. The water was warm, not deep, not dangerous. He stood up easily, water only reaching his waist. The teacher smiled. You see, he said, fear prepared you for something that was not there. The traveler laughed softly, half in embarrassment, half in relief. I thought it would be cold, he said, and deep. That is what fear does, the teacher replied. It fills the unknown with imagined danger. The traveler stood still, letting the warmth of the water sink into his legs. Something loosened inside him. He realized that fear had not only weakened him on the plank, it had exhausted him long before he stepped onto it. The sleepless night, the tension, the constant rehearsal of disaster, all of it unnecessary. The Buddha taught that much of our suffering comes from adding a second layer to experience. The first layer is uncertainty, that is natural. The second layer is fear, that is optional. The traveler climbed out of the water. This time he stepped onto the plank again. Knowing the water was warm, his body relaxed. He crossed easily. Balance returned without effort. Nothing external had changed. Understanding had. Fear loses its power when it is seen clearly. Not because it disappears, but because it is no longer believed. The traveler recognized this pattern everywhere. In conversations avoided, in opportunities delayed, in abilities doubted. Fear had been convincing him to brace against imagined cold, to tense against imagined depth, and in doing so, it had made him stumble. This insight was not dramatic. It was quiet, but it was lasting. He saw now that fear often arrives not as panic, but as over-preparation, as vigilance without cause, as a constant low-level tension that feels responsible but steals ease. When fear becomes familiar, it stops being questioned. It becomes background noise. And that is its most dangerous form, because then we stop noticing how tired we are, how much effort we expend bracing against things that are not happening. The Buddha did not teach the elimination of uncertainty. Life remains unpredictable, but he did teach the end of unnecessary suffering. When we meet uncertainty without adding fear, we remain responsive, present, capable. The traveler thanked the teacher. not for the lesson but for the experience, because some truths must be felt before they are understood. The warmth of the water had done more than any explanation could. It had revealed how much fear exaggerates, how often the mind prepares for cold depths that are not there. This realization opened another door. If fear can become so familiar that we stop noticing it, what happens when unease becomes our normal state? When worry fills the quiet spaces? When peace itself feels unfamiliar? That question leads us forward. After a while, fear no longer feels sharp. It no longer arrives as panic or obvious alarm. Instead, it settles quietly, as background tension, as constant checking, as unease. We stop questioning. We wake up worried without knowing why. We feel restless even when nothing is wrong. Peace begins to feel unfamiliar. Stillness feels empty. Silence feels unsafe. This is not because danger is everywhere. It is because the mind has learned to live in worry. Anxiety becomes a habit. Unease becomes home. To understand this strange addiction, we turn now to the way humans grow accustomed to restlessness itself. For a long time, people believed worry was a sign of responsibility. If you worried, it meant you cared. If you worried, it meant you were preparing. And slowly, without anyone noticing, worry became normal. It settled into daily life like background noise. Not loud enough to alarm, but constant enough to shape everything. Many people wake up already tense. Nothing has happened yet. No problem has appeared. And still the body is tight. The mind is scanning. What needs attention? What might go wrong? This question repeats itself quietly, even on peaceful mornings. At first, worry feels useful. It gives the mind something to do. It creates a sense of control. But over time, something changes. Worry no longer responds to problems. It creates them. The Buddha observed this pattern carefully. He saw that the untrained mind prefers movement to stillness. When there is nothing urgent, the mind invents urgency. When there is silence, the mind fills it. Not because danger is present, but because unease has become familiar. There was a man who came to a teacher complaining of constant anxiety. "I cannot rest," he said. "Even when everything is fine, my mind searches for something to fix." The teacher listened quietly. Then he asked, "When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel at ease without explaining why?" The man could not answer. He realized that peace always felt temporary, fragile, something that needed justification. If he relaxed, a voice appeared. "Be careful. Don't get comfortable. Something will happen." This voice had been with him for years. It sounded protective, but it never rested. The teacher explained gently. "Worry is not the same as care," he said. Care responds. Worry anticipates endlessly. Care ends when action is taken. Worry continues even when nothing is required. The man began to notice how his body reacted to quiet. When things slowed down, his chest tightened. When nothing demanded attention, his mind grew restless. Peace felt unfamiliar, almost unsafe. This is how addiction works, not to substances, but to states. The nervous system learns what it practices most. If it practices vigilance, vigilance becomes default. If it practices tension, tension becomes home. Worry trains the body to remain alert. The problem is not that worry exists, it is that it never turns off. Even at night, the mind replays scenarios, conversations, possible outcomes. The body never fully rests. The Buddha taught that craving is not limited to pleasure. We can crave agitation too. The mind accustomed to movement craves stimulation. If joy is unavailable, it chooses worry. At least worry feels active. At least something is happening. Stillness, by contrast, can feel empty. The man noticed this during meditation. When he tried to sit quietly, worry became louder. Thoughts multiplied. He believed meditation was making him worse. The teacher smiled. "You are not becoming more anxious," he said. "You are becoming aware of what was already there." This awareness was uncomfortable, but it was also freeing. The man began to see how often worry filled space that did not need filling. Waiting in line, lying in bed, sitting alone. Worry appeared automatically. He began to ask a simple question. Is this worry asking me to act? Sometimes the answer was yes. A bill needed paying, a call needed making. He acted, and then something unexpected happened. The worry stopped, but most of the time there was no action required. The worry continued anyway. This revealed its true nature. Habit, not wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering continues when we do not see its cause. The cause here was not life. It was conditioning. The mind had learned that being unsettled felt normal. The body had forgotten how to rest without guilt. The man practiced something new. When worry arose without purpose, he did not argue with it. He did not suppress it. He noticed it, and then he stayed still. At first, this felt wrong. The urge to engage was strong. What if you miss something? What if this matters? He breathed. Slowly, the urgency faded. The worry dissolved on its own. This was surprising. He realized that worry often survives only because it is fed. Attention is its fuel. Without engagement, it loses momentum. This did not mean the man became careless. He still planned, he still responded when needed. But he stopped rehearsing disasters. He stopped treating every moment as a potential threat. Something changed in his sleep. His body began to settle more deeply. His breath slowed naturally. Peace no longer felt dangerous. It felt unfamiliar, yes, but also nourishing. The Buddha described peace as the natural state of the mind when it is not disturbed. Not something created, but something uncovered. As worry loosened, the man felt space. In that space, new understanding arose. He saw how much of his life had been lived in anticipation. Not presence, not engagement, just bracing. And he saw the cost: exhaustion, irritability, disconnection. Worry had promised safety, but delivered fatigue. This realization was gentle. There was no self-blame, only clarity. The man began to trust that not every moment required his vigilance, that peace did not need explanation, that rest was not negligence. This trust did not come all at once. It grew slowly, moment by moment. Each time he chose not to feed unnecessary worry, the habit weakened. The Buddha taught that habits fade when they are no longer practiced, not through force, through understanding. As worry loosened, another fear came into view, a deeper one, the fear of change itself. Because when we stop clinging to anxious patterns, we must face a truth that underlies all fear. Everything changes. Nothing stays. And learning to rest in that reality is the next step of the path. As worry begins to loosen, something deeper comes into view. Beneath anxiety, beneath restlessness, beneath the habit of bracing, there is a quieter fear. Not fear of what might happen tomorrow, but fear that everything we know will eventually change. Bodies age, relationships shift, moments pass and do not return. We sense this truth early in life, but rarely face it directly. Instead, we worry, we plan, we cling, we stay busy. Because stillness reminds us that nothing stays the same. The Buddha did not turn away from this truth. He looked directly at it, and in doing so, he discovered something unexpected. Impermanence is not a threat. It is the doorway to freedom. To understand this, we turn now to those who have stood at the edge of life itself and found not terror but peace. Xiao Chu Yen Moi Sao, fan mot impermanence in the edge of life. Most fears, when traced carefully, lead to one place. Not to failure, not to loss, but to change. Things ending, bodies aging, moments passing beyond reach. We sense this from early on, but we learn not to look at it directly. Instead, we stay busy. We plan, we worry, because if everything changes, what can be held? The Buddha did not turn away from this question. He placed it at the center of his teaching. All conditioned things are impermanent. This was not spoken as a warning. It was offered as clarity. There's a story told of people who came very close to the edge of life, not in theory, but in experience. One woman became gravely ill. For a time, recovery was uncertain. During one night, as her body weakened, something unexpected happened. Fear did not increase. It faded. She described it later as a great release. The tension she had carried for years simply fell away. There was no struggle, no resistance, only a deep quiet. She said it felt as if she had been holding her breath her entire life and finally exhaled. Thoughts slowed. The body softened. There was a sense of being held not by anything visible, but by a vast calm. When she recovered, she could not forget this. The things she had once feared no longer held the same weight. Deadlines, opinions, small failures, they all seemed distant. She had touched something that did not depend on conditions. The Buddha taught that much of our fear comes from mistaking form for essence. We identify with the body, with roles, with stories, and because all of these change, we feel threatened. But there is something that does not change, the awareness that knows experience. It was present in childhood, it is present now. Thoughts come and go, sensations rise and fall, but the knowing remains. People who approach death often report this shift. They stop identifying with what is leaving and begin resting in what remains. There is another story of a man who nearly drowned. As he struggled, panic filled his body. Then suddenly he stopped fighting. In that moment, everything became quiet. He felt no urgency, no fear, only presence. He was rescued shortly after. When asked about the experience, he said something surprising. The struggle was worse than the danger. The Buddha spoke of suffering in this way. Pain exists, change exists, but resistance creates fear. When resistance falls away, peace can appear even in the face of endings. This does not mean people who face death wish to die. It means they stop arguing with what is happening, and in that acceptance, the mind rests. Impermanence seen clearly does not lead to despair. It leads to intimacy with life. When we know a moment will pass, we are present with it. When we know a body will age, we care for it gently. When we know relationships change, we cherish connection without clinging. The Buddha compared life to a wave on the ocean. The wave rises, it moves, it falls. From the wave's view, the ending looks like loss. From the ocean's view, nothing is lost. The water remains. We are like this. Forms arise, forms dissolve. but what we are is not limited to form. This understanding changes our relationship with fear. Fear tries to preserve. Wisdom allows. Fear tightens around time. Wisdom opens to it. People who resist impermanence live braced. People who accept it live awake. This acceptance is not passive, it is intimate. It does not turn away from pain, it meets it without adding terror. The Buddha did not promise that life would be painless. He showed how suffering could end, by seeing clearly, by letting go of resistance. As the woman who recovered said later, "I am not afraid of endings anymore. I am afraid of not being present." Impermanence teaches this. Nothing is guaranteed, and that is what makes presence possible. When we stop demanding permanence, we stop living in fear. We begin to live in appreciation. This understanding opens the door to another image, one that brings impermanence close to the heart, not at the edge of life, but in the quiet beauty of a single leaf. To see this, we turn to an old teacher and an autumn afternoon. After touching the truth of impermanence at the edge of life, another understanding often arises. Not as an idea, but as a feeling, a sense of being larger than the story we are living. The Buddha offered an image to help point toward this. He spoke of a wave in the ocean. From the wave's perspective, life is brief. It rises, it moves across the surface, and then, inevitably, it falls. If the wave believes it is only the wave, fear is unavoidable. Every moment becomes fragile. Every change feels like loss. But the Buddha asked us to look more deeply. What is the wave made of? Water. And where does the water go when the wave falls? It returns to the ocean. Nothing is destroyed. Nothing is lost. Only the form changes. People who come close to death often describe this shift. They stop identifying with the wave and begin resting as the ocean. One man who survived a severe accident spoke of this clearly. He said that in the moment he thought his life was ending, his fear dissolved. Not because he was brave, not because he was prepared, but because something in him stopped holding on. He felt expansive, unbounded. He later said, "I realized I was not disappearing, I was returning." This experience changed him, not in dramatic ways, but in quiet ones. He no longer rushed. He no longer clung to small grievances. He listened more. He forgave more easily. Impermanence had softened him. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from clinging to youth, clinging to roles, clinging to certainty. But when we recognize that we are not limited to these forms, fear loses its foundation. This does not mean we stop caring. The ocean does not reject the wave. It gives rise to it. We still love, we still act, we still participate fully, but without the panic of trying to make things last forever. A teacher once said, "Hold life like a bird in your hands, firm enough that it does not escape, gentle enough that it is not harmed." Impermanence teaches this balance. When we accept that moments pass, we stop postponing presence. When we accept the body's age, we treat them with tenderness. When we accept that life ends, we live more honestly. Fear tells us to look away from this truth. Wisdom invites us to look directly. And what we often find is not darkness, but peace. The wave does not need to fight the ocean. It belongs to it, and so do we. This understanding prepares us for the next story, one that does not speak of dramatic endings, but of quiet beauty, of letting go with grace, of an old teacher and a single autumn leaf. When impermanence is no longer feared, something subtle changes. We stop fighting endings. We stop seeing change as failure. Instead of asking, how do I hold on longer? We begin to ask, how do I let go? Well, this question does not arise at the edge of life alone. It appears in quiet moments, in small goodbyes, in things that naturally fall away. Nature shows us this constantly. Nothing clings. Nothing resists its season. To understand this kind of letting go, not as loss but as beauty, we turn now to a simple moment, an old teacher, a calm afternoon, and a single autumn leaf. The old teacher liked to sit outside in the late afternoon, not to teach, not to speak, just to watch. The bench where he sat faced a small courtyard where a single tree stood. It was autumn now. The leaves had begun to change slowly without urgency. Gold, amber, soft red. A student approached quietly and sat beside him. They did not speak at first. The air was cool but gentle. After a while, a leaf loosened from its branch and drifted down. It moved without hurry, turning slightly as it fell, catching the light. The student watched it touch the ground. Something in him tightened. It's sad, he said softly, that it has to fall. The teacher smiled, not unkindly. Is it? He asked. The student hesitated. It's the end, he replied. It won't be part of the tree anymore. The teacher nodded. Look again, he said. They watched the tree together. Some branches were bare, others still full. Did the leaf fall too early? The teacher asked. No, the student said. It's autumn. Did the tree fail? The teacher continued. The student shook his head. The leaf did not fall because something went wrong, the teacher said. It fell because its time came. The student was quiet. He realized how often he associated endings with mistakes, with loss, with failure. The teacher reached down and picked up the leaf. Its edges were dry, but its color was rich. Is this leaf ugly? He asked. No, the student replied. It's beautiful. The teacher held it gently. This beauty exists because it is passing, he said. If it stayed forever, you would stop noticing it. The student felt something shift. He had feared endings because he believed they erased meaning. But here, meaning was deepened by impermanence. The Buddha taught that clinging turns change into suffering. When we resist what is natural, we suffer twice. Once from the change itself, and again from our refusal to accept it. The leaf did not resist falling. It did not cling to the branch. It let go. And in doing so, it completed its life. The teacher placed the leaf back in the ground. One day he said, "This leaf will become soil, and from that soil the tree will be nourished again. Nothing is wasted." The student thought of people he had lost, moments that had ended, versions of himself that no longer existed. He had carried those endings as if they were unfinished, as if something had gone wrong. What about us? He asked quietly. Are we like the leaf? The teacher smiled. Yes, he said, and like the tree, we appear, we change, we return. The problem, he continued, is not that things end. The problem is that we demand they do not. The student understood this, not as an idea, but as a feeling. He felt the weight of resistance soften. He realized how much fear came from trying to hold what was already loosening. The teacher looked up at the branches. When you know something will pass, he said, you learn how to love it properly, not by gripping it, but by being present. The student breathed more deeply. He saw how impermanence did not cheapen life. It gave it texture, depth, urgency. Without endings, there would be no tenderness. Without change, there would be no gratitude. The leaf lay still on the ground, now part of a larger pattern. The student felt a quiet peace, not because he understood everything, but because he stopped arguing with reality. The teacher stood slowly. "Come," he said, "it's getting cooler." They walked away from the tree. The leaf remained, and the lesson remained with the student. Letting go is not abandonment. It is participation in the way life moves. This understanding brings us to the final step. Because once we stop fearing endings, we must ask something else. How do we live while things are still here? How do we meet each day without clinging and without fear? To answer this, we arrive at the final teaching. Not about death, not about loss, but about how to build a life of peace, one moment at a time. When we no longer fear endings, life asks us a gentler question. Not how do I avoid loss, but how do I live while I am here? The leaf falls, the season changes, and still each day arrives. We are not asked to control the flow. We are not asked to make life permanent. We are asked only to choose how we meet it, with fear or with understanding, with tension or with ease. Everything we have seen along this path has been pointing to this moment. Not a final answer, but a way of living, a way of building something steady inside a changing world. To understand this, we come now to the last story. Not a story of loss, but of home. The home we build within ourselves. We often imagine peace as something that arrives, a destination, a condition, when life becomes quieter, when problems resolve, when the future feels secure. But what we have been discovering along this path is something different. Peace is not what happens when life stops changing. Peace is what we build while life continues to move. The Buddha never promised a world without difficulty. He offered a way to live within it without fear. Imagine for a moment that peace is a house. Not a house made of walls and doors, but one built inside you. This house is not constructed all at once. There is no sudden completion, no final moment when everything is finished. It is built brick by brick. Each brick is a choice to pause instead of panic, a choice to soften instead of brace, a choice to meet what arises with understanding rather than resistance. When fear appears and you do not follow it, you place one brick. When worry arises and you notice it without feeding it, another brick settles into place. When you make a mistake and respond with kindness rather than punishment, the walls grow stronger. This house is not perfect. It does not need to be. Some days the structure feels solid, other days it feels fragile. But over time, something unmistakable forms. A place you can return to. Many people spend their lives trying to control the weather. They try to arrange circumstances so nothing difficult will arrive. But life does not work that way. Storms come, winds shift, seasons change. The Buddha's teaching was never about controlling the outside world. It was about choosing where you stand when the wind blows. When fear leads, we build our lives on tension. We tighten against uncertainty. We brace for impact. But tension is not a foundation. It cracks under pressure. Peace requires a different base. Not certainty, not control. Understanding. Understanding that difficulty is part of life. Understanding that fear exaggerates, understanding that you can meet each moment without being consumed by it. This understanding is what makes the house stable. You do not wait until fear disappears to begin building. You build while fear is present. Each time fear arises and you choose not to obey it, its authority weakens. Each time you stay present instead of escaping into worry, your trust deepens. This is how peace becomes reliable, not because life becomes predictable, but because your relationship to it does. The house of peace does not isolate you from life. It allows you to participate fully. You still feel sadness, you still experience loss, you still face uncertainty, but you do not collapse under it. You have somewhere to stand. The Buddha described this as refuge, not a refuge from life, but a refuge within it. When emotions surge, you return to breath. When thoughts race, you return to awareness. When fear whispers urgency, you return to the body. This returning is how the house is maintained. It does not require effort, only remembering that you do not need to solve everything now. Remembering that this moment is workable. Remembering that fear does not have to decide. The house of peace grows each time you choose presence over projection. It grows when you listen instead of react, when you allow silence without filling it, when you trust yourself to meet what comes. Over time, this house becomes familiar. You know how to find your way back even after getting lost. You know how to rest even when life is loud. You know how to soften even when the world feels sharp. This does not make you passive. It makes you responsive. You act when action is needed. You speak when words are useful. You rest when rest is appropriate. Fear no longer drives you. It informs you at most, then steps aside. The Buddha taught that freedom is not found by escaping the world, but by seeing it clearly. The house of peace is built from this seeing. It stands not because it is defended, but because it is aligned with how life actually works. Nothing permanent, nothing fixed, nothing guaranteed. And yet, here you are, breathing, present, capable. This is the paradox. When we stop demanding certainty, we find stability. When we stop fighting change, we find ground. The house of peace is not something you will finish building. It is something you live inside as it continues to take shape. And in this living, a deeper rest becomes possible. Because once you know you can meet life as it is, something else happens. The body begins to let go. The breath deepens naturally. The mind releases its grip. There is no urgency now. Nothing to solve, nothing to prove. Just this moment arriving exactly as it should. In the next part of our journey, we will allow everything we have learned to settle completely. We will stop building for a while and simply rest inside the house that is already here. Now there is nothing left to build. The walls are already standing. Not because they are perfect, but because they are enough. You have been placing the bricks quietly all along, each moment of understanding, each pause instead of panic, each time you chose gentleness over fear. And now you can rest. Let the body settle. There is no need to hold it upright anymore. No need to prepare. No need to anticipate. The ground beneath you is steady because you are no longer fighting it. Breath moves in, breath moves out. Nothing needs to be changed. You are not being asked to remember every story. You are not being asked to hold on to every insight. Understanding has already done its work. Like water soaking into soil, it continues quietly on its own. If thoughts arise, let them pass through the rooms of this house without needing to rearrange anything. They can come, they can go. You do not have to follow them. If sensations appear, warmth, heaviness, softness, let them be. The body knows how to rest when it is no longer being pushed. There is a simple truth that has been present from the beginning. Fear does not come from the world. It comes from resistance to the world. And when resistance softens, fear loosens its grip. The Buddha raised his hand not to command, not to threaten, but to reassure. Do not be afraid, not because nothing will change, but because you can meet change without losing yourself. You do not need to control the night to rest within it. You do not need to understand everything to be at ease. This moment is already safe enough. Let the breath become slower, not by force, but by permission. Let the shoulders fall away from the ears. Let the jaw unclench. Let the forehead smooth. There is nowhere to go. The day has been lived. Its weight can be set down now. You are allowed to stop holding. If the mind asks, "What about tomorrow?" you can answer gently, "Tomorrow will come on its own. Right now there is only this." The quiet rhythm of breathing. The steady presence beneath experience. You are not behind, you are not late. Nothing is required of you. The house of peace does not need guarding. It does not collapse when you stop watching. It stands because it is built in alignment with how life moves, moment by moment, breath by breath. And if sleep comes, let it come, not as escape, but as rest. If sleep does not come immediately, that is also fine. Rest is already happening. The body is learning again that it does not need fear to stay alive. The mind is learning again that silence is not dangerous. You are learning again what you have always known, that beneath the stories, beneath the worries, beneath the effort, there is a quiet presence that has never been afraid. Stay here. Nothing more needs to be done. Nothing more needs to be understood. Just this gentle reminder offered one last time. Do not be afraid. And now there is nothing left to understand, nothing left to hold. The stories have already done their work, not in the thinking mind, but somewhere deeper, where effort is no longer required. You do not need to remember the teachings. You do not need to recall the images. Like footsteps in the sand, they can fade. What remains is enough. If you are still awake, you may notice how the body feels heavier now, the breath slower, the edges of thought softer, less urgent. And if sleep has already begun to take you, that too is perfectly right. There is no correct way to listen here. This space has always been about resting, not achieving. In this quiet, you may sense something simple and steady beneath everything. A presence that does not rush, that does not demand answers, that does not ask you to be fearless, only to stop feeding fear. This is the place we return to again and again throughout the long night. Not to escape the world, but to remember that peace does not need permission. Whatever the night holds for you, let it come gently. There is no need to stay alert, no need to keep watch. The world can wait. For now, rest. Let the breath come and go on its own. Let the mind loosen its grip and allow sleep if it wishes to arrive quietly. Good night. May you rest deeply, and may the night hold you without fear.